have and what they're planning on having.
Yeah, it really is. In fact, I was having a conversation yesterday. We've been colluding with Jefferson County Schools. We have a network, a fiber optic network that we've built for public safety, and we're bringing Jeffco schools into that network, and it'll eventually provide access to camera systems and stuff. They have to work out a lot of logistics of how that'll take place. But here in Jefferson County, they gave the schools a waiver on installing bidirectional amplifiers when schools were built, and so in-building coverage is a real problem. And we're kind of looking to FirstNet as the future. When agencies migrate to these FirstNet handheld devices, I don't know if you're familiar with them, they do LMR, LTE, and Wi-Fi. And if first responders have those devices, then when they go to the schools, they can hop on the Wi-Fi for in-building coverage and be able to communicate it. It'll be a great thing.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot cheaper than trying to go back and retroactively install BDAs in all those locations.
Yeah, we funded a couple over the years, and they are really expensive, and I don't think they work all that well.
I know in some of my past agencies, I installed them in ERs at hospitals where cops spent a lot of time, and schools for the SROs, for example. And yeah, it's an improvement, but like you say, they're not perfect by any means.
Yeah, FirstNet's pretty cool. One of the problems here, we just don't have the density of coverage in the mountainous areas of Jefferson County. In the flats, it's great, but when you get up in the mountains, it's always an issue for not only the digital trunk radio system, but any kind of cellular coverage. We've had to install phones in certain areas like Deer Creek Canyon and places because there's just absolutely no cell coverage, so that people have a way to call 911 if they can get to a fire station or what have you. And that was interesting because when we first installed those things, we had an engineer that we worked with, and he put in some of these dialers that you hit the button and it would automatically dial, and the lightning just would take those things out constantly. And finally, I turned to the guys at CenturyLink and said, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And we ended up putting in just a plain old handset that when you pick it up, it has what's called a hotline function, and it points to 911 and dials. And those things have been great. You could hit them with a rocket and they'd survive.
Sometimes old school is still the way to go.
That's right. Well, it's 1800. Doran, are you running the show tonight?
Sure, absolutely. All right. Welcome all to the Elmer session this evening. My name is Doran. This is not a net. There's no check-ins required, or they'll be taken. They won't be taken, excuse me. You don't need to be a ham radio operator. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you have 3 dots. If you click on that, and there's an option for changing your layout, and if you change it to Spotlight, you should see my screen here in just a moment. But this is a general Q&A. If anyone has any comments, questions, anything about ham radio related or electronics or anything, please let us know.
Hi, this is Jim, AD0YO.
Hey, yeah, go ahead.
I just got a ICOM 9700, and right now I'm focusing on putting up a 2 meter, 70 centimeter antenna setup for it. But it also supports 23 centimeters. Is there any repeater activity or anything like that in the area, Denver area, that works on 23 centimeters? Does anyone know?
I am not sure off the top of my head. Let's take a look, though.
I looked in the repeater book and it said there were 2 in Boulder, but I couldn't find out much information beyond that, and it wasn't clear that they were actually operating.
Gotcha, I do see that, yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting band. I've never really played around with that before.
Neither have I. It's just, the transceiver supports it, so I thought I'd ask.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I don't.
Don't have an
Oh, go ahead.
I don't have an antenna for it yet either. So
Gotcha.
but it only has to be 12 centimeters long, or no, 5 centimeters long. So I could put up a 5 centimeter vertical and just see, I guess.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm not too sure on that. Anyone else have any info on 23 centimeter repeater or simplex usage within the Denver metro area?
I don't think Basinger's on yet. He's kind of got into some of that higher frequency stuff, but I don't see anything on Colorado Repeater Association or Rocky Mountain Radio League sites. I wonder if that was the Boulder, if that was BARC or which organization that was. Boulder Amateur Radio.
Well, I think one was BARC, and I'm not sure what the other one was. I haven't tracked down the 2 call signs associated with them. One of them was BARC. Is BARC active?
BARC is active, and they may be using that range for their broadcasts. They've got a couple of senior members that are really, really active in television broadcasts.
Okay, so they might be using it for that. It says D-Star on the repeater book, but you never know exactly how up to date that information is. Okay, well, thanks. If anybody hears anything, I'd appreciate knowing.
Yeah, if you take a look at bouldercountyares.org, bouldercountyares.org, there's some information on there on the Mountain Emergency Radio Network. I know they've used some of their TV stuff to support wildfire efforts and stuff in the past.
So that may be what those repeaters are for.
And there's a technical section there on the right side that talks about current repeater status and D-Star, and you might find some info there.
Yeah, it looks like they are using it for their amateur TV stuff.
Well, they were 7 years ago.
AG has a question.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, please. Just barely, very, very muffled.
Oh, he said drop that link in the chat. Let me, I can do that.
We can kind of hear you, but it's very, very, very muffled.
That's better? 1, 2, 3.
No, not really. But you can try. We can hear you.
So I'm new into, well, not exactly new. I'm new to your club, but I have a question regarding obtaining license, ham radio license. Like, I would like to get the exam, and nowadays everything is changed, and that any one of you knows, and can you contact me with someone who can help me to get the exam, to get to the exam for ham radio?
I think you were asking about call sign upgrade. Were you talking about? Let me see. One second.
I'm study, yeah. I'm radio exam.
Okay. Yeah, if you want to upgrade your radio, or
I do not have a license. I don't have a license.
Okay. Why can't I? Let's see. Okay.
If you can mute when you're not speaking, AG, we're getting an echo.
Okay, hold on.
Go ahead, Doron.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, if you don't have your license yet, this is a great site. Just to get licensed and getting into it, the pools, the question and answer pools are all public, so you can really just read them verbatim, one by one, and know the answers. I mean, it can be as simple as really just studying the question pool and knowing it, and just through attrition, you'll probably really get a good understanding of that information. Having any electronics background obviously helps, but hamstudy.org is a great tool. You just go through the questions, read them, know the answers, study them. There's 300 or 400 questions in the first two tests, and every time you go to test, they will give you the opportunity to, if you pass, you can take the next test for free. So that's another good suggestion too. But yeah, this is a great study site. You can bring it up on your mobile, and you can read the flashcards. And if you miss a question, it'll re-bring that up. So it'll just force you to learn it. So that's a good resource as well. And I think we did mute you, AG. If you want to unmute, go ahead.
Thank you. I know that site, but I was more like asking, sorry, where do I get the test? Where can I take the test?
Okay. Same site has a good resource. Let me bring that back up here. If you click on Find a Session on the right here, and you guys can see my screen, correct?
Yes, I can see.
Okay, perfect. Yep, you could just put your zip code in here and filter, and you can see what is available. Nowadays, there's things being in person, there's things online, and so it'll be pretty obvious. And we talk about the W0PCT group, I believe, the Patriot Team, VE team, and they do free testing, and so that's a good resource there. If you do find a session, you can find your nearest and closest, and you can schedule it online, and it gives you all the information there.
Comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, I think Tom, who runs the testing for DRC, was looking to get a test group together at the very end of November, maybe the 28th, 29th, the Saturday, Sunday at the end of the month. I think he had 2 people that were interested, which is kind of the minimum number. And then one of those popped out. So maybe if we have another second, that'll happen. The reason I know is because I'm helping Tom find the space for it. I have an office that he can use for it.
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks for that info there. Yeah, if you go onto our W0TX website, you can go to the officers link, and you can find Tom Kachowski's information here. And that's another good resource too. Our club can provide some testing, it sounds like.
Would that include testing for general? I'm interested in upgrading to general sooner than later.
I believe it should be all classes license we are able to test for.
Absolutely. So, and I believe this group's part of the ARRL's VEC. So the test does cost $15 to do it. But yes, you could sit in one day for tech, general, extra.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks for that info there.
And Daron, I see Larry Irons is on. Larry, there was a question earlier about one of the fellows has a new rig and has 23 centimeters on it. I was wondering if there's any 23 centimeter activity locally. I didn't know if you would know anything about that.
23 centimeter. What's that in frequency?
It was like 1200, 1300 megahertz.
I don't know of any repeaters. I know there might be a repeater up in the gigahertz range. Just getting into it. I don't know of anything that's a repeater up that high. There certainly are people that use gigahertz for I don't know around here though, but they do use gigahertz for like dishes and things to make contacts and things. But and it would be funny because here's a good area to do it with all the mountains and stuff. You could connect to people, and it would be a really good thing to do, but I can't think of anything offhand.
I didn't realize D-Star was this old. Okay, well, great conversation here. Anyone else on anything we've brought up so far? Anything else you'd like to bring up? I can definitely. Let's see, another question here. What 2-meter radio would we recommend? There are different options for mobile or portable. I mean,
One that
people.
works.
Yeah, one that works. Exactly. So yeah, so portable. And just for clarification, that means portable. I guess means technically like a not a handheld unit. I guess correct. Yeah, because that would be HT. I can never spell this. FT. I have a FT857D, and it still works really, really well. But it's not the 2-meter. It's 2 meter 70 centimeter. It's kind of all band. What's a good 2-meter portable radio? Let's see.
I would interpret portable to mean handheld, not mobile.
Okay. Yeah. People might scoff on the cheap Baofangs, and yeah, you have to be very careful because they're may or may not, the ones you buy on Amazon may or may not have the correct license or part 90 whatever 95 97, so they may leak. But a good old cheap $20-$30 Baofeng works. A lot of people get that for their kind of first entry level radio. So that's a good choice.
I guess the thing I would say is it depends on how active you're going to be, and whether you want to be able to program it. That's the main thing, is programming, whether you can use a cable and program it by uploading a file from your computer versus having to punch things in. If you're only going to access a few local repeaters, then programming's not an issue. The Baofangs can be, man, a nightmare to to program in my experience. Something like a good Yaesu or an ICOM, even an older one, in good condition would serve you well. And then you have to look at batteries, what batteries are available and whether they require a memory battery and some of those things. I just drop into HRO if they're open to the public at some point, and kind of chew the fat with those guys.
They've been open to the
Yeah.
public recently. They limit how many people can be in now with this new restrictions coming out of the governor. I do not know what changes will happen, but you certainly can do curbside service, and they'll discuss things with you if you come in person.
All right. Good questions there.
I have a question about HF vertical antennas, if I might.
Please.
I purchased a multi-band HF vertical with a tilt base from the widow of a silent key a few months ago, and I just got done installing it, poured the cement for the post. I buried the coax a couple hundred feet to the house, and I've connected it to my FT991A. I cannot believe the difference between it and a long wire in terms of what I'm picking up. My question has to do with the ground radials. I bought a big spool of wire with the intention of putting 30 to 40 radial wires going out, in every direction from the ground. And they say, ideally 32 feet, but if some of them are long and some of them aren't, that's okay. It has to be up in the mountains here. I don't have grass. It's either gravel and granite, or I've thrown bark chips for areas I use for pathways. If I put this stuff on the ground and use the U-shaped pins to pin the wires down and then cover it with a layer of bark chips? Is it okay to drive over it and things like that? And will it still work?
I am not sure on that. Can your radials take that? Go.
Yeah, I think you'd be fine as long as it stays connected to the base of the antenna, you know, doesn't get caught up in something. I think you'll be fine.
You're probably going to lose a few radials over the years, but that won't affect anything. Not if you put 30 or 40 of them out there.
And the manufacturer says the efficiency and performance of that vertical will go up appreciably by adding all those verticals. So I was committed to doing that, but I didn't know if that was an accurate statement that it'll really make a difference.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. The antenna depends upon that those radials to create essentially a reflection of the antenna that, as though it was below the ground, kind of turns it into a dipole. And without those radials, you won't get that. You won't get any signal out at all. You've got to have something for it to work against. It's the difference between a vertical and a dipole.
Sorry, I was a little distracted here. Yeah, I have not done too much with HF verticals and radials and whatnot, so that's there's definitely a lot going on there. Good question, though. All right, anyone else on that topic of radials and real-world tests and real-world conditions of how much they can put up with over time, et cetera, or anything else you want to bring up? Please call now or let us know. Just bringing up the LearningNet from this last week. Discussed quite a few things here. I thought we had spoken about radials. Maybe it was about last week before. Anyone
Question?
else? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, do those radials, need to be insulated wire, right? And then do the ends of them need to be protected from actually touching the ground, the bare wire touching the ground?
The spool of wire that I bought is insulated wire, and it
doesn't matter.
It has like an eye loop that you screw into the square ground plane attachment at the base, but they didn't say anything of a problem if a bare wire hit the ground. There was nothing in the manual that said that would be a problem.
No, it's not. It's not. The wire can be bare or insulated. It's just that insulated wire typically can put up with more scraping on the rock and cars driving over it and stuff like that. It just lasts longer.
Okay, thank you.
Very neat. All right. Okay. Anyone else have anything? We got plenty of time here before the meeting.
Okay, can you hear me? It's Cedric.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, there's my picture. I am trying to track down some noise. I live in an apartment. We spoke about this last month. I bought an inexpensive AM radio, to try to locate, okay, what's causing the noise, and I put the antenna like super close to like one of the what's it called?
Huawei or
Warts, the little transformers that would power.
A wall wart.
Wall
wart.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you. I don't hear a change in the amount of noise in my apartment when I bring the antenna close by. So are the Walmarts not the problem? I wonder what else it might be. Any ideas?
It can be LED or fluorescent light bulbs. It can be if you sadly have a plasma TV, it's almost guaranteed.
I do not have a TV. I got 2 monitors for
Usually
the
those are okay.
computer.
If you have anything with a DC motor in it, a lot of the fancy new appliances have these DC motors, so you won't hear the noise until they turn on. And then, of course, you have neighbors all around you who have stuff plugged into the electrical wiring, which acts like a huge antenna in that apartment building.
Yeah, I know.
So it may not be you.
Okay, because I bought some
What you
ferrite
are
tolite
you? Yeah,
stuff.
are you hearing? Are you hearing the noise with the AM radio?
Yeah. You want me to go get the AM
Okay,
radio?
so it is. No, I mean, the question is, the noise can come into your system 2 different ways. One is through the power lines, and the other is through the air. And if it's
Okay.
coming through the air, then that means putting ferrites on all the power lines and everything will help, but you really need to kind of find out where it's coming from if you can.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to
Well,
maintain.
walk around the building with your little AM radio and see if it gets really loud somewhere.
Okay, I can do that. I'm trying to keep a
and do it
low
and go.
profile.
Well, yeah, I'll plug in an earplug so they can't tell what you're doing. They'll just think you're listening to music.
Yeah.
And then also walk around outside and see if you're getting it from the power lines in the neighborhood, because a bad power connection up there on the high voltage lines can be arcing and generating a heck of a lot of noise. But you won't hear it or see it unless you walk right by the pole.
Okay.
So there are
Okay.
lots of things to check before you start, wrapping everything in ferrites. You need to walk around and do a little checking. I drive around in my car also. When I had some problems, I would drive around trying to hear where it got loud.
Okay.
But I didn't have much luck with that.
Yeah, I'm
But
in
you
an
might try
apartment
it.
complex.
And Cedric,
Yeah.
I would first, make sure that it's not coming from inside my unit, like start flipping breakers and maybe unplugging things to see if it goes away when you do that. See if you can narrow it down to maybe some culprit within your unit.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And
Thank
then if
you.
not that, then look outside, and don't forget things like, I don't know if you've got a router for your internet. Sometimes things can get transmitted over if you have Ethernet in your apartment or places like that things can get transmitted. It can be a bad ground on an outlet. It's good to test the outlets to make sure they're wired correctly, and just try to eliminate all those things inside.
Yeah.
Fish tanks and grow lights. And
Well, I don't have either of those. I do have a router. It's not supplied by the internet company. I bought it from a computer company back home in Rochester, New York.
But again, like the wall wart that supplies it, or
Yeah.
you never know where it'll come from.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Looks like Troy had put a video link in the chat here about a good way to find noise and get it fixed. So yeah, this is a pretty good channel here, the Ham Radio Crash Course. My suggestion too would be to purchase a software-defined radio. You can get them for pretty cheap, and you can use it in combination with a piece of software. Lots of different software. One is called the SDR Sharp, though, and it's just has a nice interface for getting a waterfall and understanding where noise might be coming from. So you could try to use that along with it and see if you can find something.
So this is like a portable radio then?
This, you would actually need a computer. or you can plug it into a smartphone as well. But yeah, it's a USB-based device that you would need to plug into a Windows or Linux or Mac PC, and you could use software to bring up a waterfall of the spectrum. And these cover HF, VHF, UHF from 500 kilohertz to 1.7 gigahertz. So
Okay.
another option too there.
Yeah, I mostly operate HF. 2018, after like 40 years, I finally got to work all states. So I don't know if I'm being too optimistic, but I want to see if I can get the 5-band worked all states. Maybe I should park myself in a park somewhere. Not sure where though.
Gotcha. All right. Anyone else have any other questions on that or anything else you'd like to bring up so far?
Oh, and I dropped a link in there to an interesting British article about radials, radio enthusiast.
That's right. Bring that up here. Yeah, another great article here on that. Well, cool. What else do we have going on here? Speaking of, I guess once you get into the gigahertz bands, they change into letters band names. So at least the L band, it's 1600 megahertz, 1685. You can use for the GOES satellite system, which is the geostationary satellite system, I believe, for meteorological purposes. And so you can read a post on how to pick that up. Pretty neat little backyard project there. Always more stuff on rtl-sdr.com. A lot of cool articles about software-defined radio and how we can interact with, how we can use software to really change how we work here with these things. So always a lot of good reads over here. See over on hackaday.com, another great blog if you have any interest in electronics or engineering. Let's see. I know there was an article. Let's see. This is not super related, but very much if you have like an IoT device or something, it sets up an ad hoc Wi-Fi network, and then you can connect your phone to it, and then use your phone to connect it to your Wi-Fi network. You can now do the same thing with a Raspberry Pi. So if you want to use a project that acts very similar to that, that's over here as well.
At Daron, I pulled out my ARRL repeater directory for this year, and I did find some stuff that might be in 23 centimeters.
Okay, yeah.
In Boulder, there's 2 D stars. One's on 1283.86250, and one's on 1299.50. So I think that's 23 centimeters. Let's see, I found something else. There was a FM. There's an FM in Cripple Creek that's on 1287.70. There's a Fort Collins FM on 1283.55. So apparently there are some around. There's a D-Star on Lookout Mountain, 1283.96250. So there's one in the metro area right there.
Okay.
So this is kind of surprising. I didn't know that. Whole nother place to play. There's one in Westminster, 1253.25. That's it. Plus, there's some that are in the 900 and something megahertz range, which is the next one down, I think, next band down.
Very cool. Yeah, sounds like there's opportunities out there, and yeah, if we don't use these bands, they will maybe be taken away from us. So if we don't want to use it, we may not lose it.
Doron, this is Matt Webb. I'm the presenter for tonight. I was wondering if you might share that Hackaday link for the Raspberry Pi project, maybe a link
course,
in the
yeah.
chat. Helpful. I'm getting into this because of my day job, so yeah, I'll talk a little about that later.
Cool.
But
Absolutely. Yeah, I just dropped
I
that in
appreciate
there. No problem.
Yeah, thank you.
Couple things I've found over this last couple of weeks here. There's a YouTube about this. I think maybe about the same from the same YouTuber we were seeing earlier. But Ham Shack Hotline, you can get some VoIP phones if you're like an Aries group or something like that. You can, as long as you have internet. This is, I think, just an option. They'll ship you out a phone, and you can make. I don't know if it's a public switched telephone network, just regular phone calls, but I'd imagine it's probably a similar tool. But hamshackhotline.com is a pretty interesting project here. Let's see. So, it's still over on hackaday.com. Some people do soldering, and there's a couple different types of soldering. There's a through-hole soldering, which is your larger components that you would kind of expect. Well, it's basically just a hole in a PCB board and just like larger pins, and it's not super difficult to work with. But then there's also SMD soldering, which is a surface mount device, I think, soldering, and it's very, very fine pitch, very much smaller, and you need kind of a. You can use a. There's a lot of different methods. I've never really done it, but there's like a reflow station. You can just heat it all up, and it'll kind of just settle in. But there's somebody has done a SMD capacitors on this photo here. This K6 ARK likes to operate portable, so he puts together a very lightweight. One of his latest uses toroids, tiny toroids, and SMD capacitors to form trap elements. So pretty neat here.
Let's do a little grinding here. Swap that out for the fatter, basically from the center conductor to ground.
So pretty neat stuff here, and yeah, don't ever hesitate to try to get into soldering, even surface mount, because nowadays it's a lot easier to try to get this smaller stuff done. See, over on rtl-sdr.com, we've spoken about ADS-B before, which is the newer generations of ways to track airplanes and aircraft. And there's, due to just the inherent nature of it, there's not really much encryption with it. So you can use fingerprinting to kind of detect who or what a call sign is, or what kind of aircraft they're looking at just through ADS-B. So another pretty interesting thing here. All right, this is Daron. We have another 20 or so minutes. Anybody has anything they'd like to bring up? Let me go to the chat here. Somebody dropped in a link about antennas in EU. Okay. Yep. Very neat. There is always plenty of stuff going on. Let's see here. again, over on hackaday.com, they had a thing called Remotocon over this last weekend or so, and they just this is the keynote presentation about discusses the entanglements in politics of politics and technology. I have not watched this talk yet, but it's pretty high level stuff here. And yeah, they have a lot of other stuff on their YouTube of other talks given here. Let's bring that up here. If you go to youtube.com/hackaday, you can find more info on there. They have always all sorts of stuff going on, but they have introduction into Raspberry Pis, serial buses, PCB reverse engineering, what is a software-defined radio, how to use it. So everything we're kind of talking about, and a lot more. Pretty cool. Looks like somebody had asked a question about owning a SDR Play receiver. I don't have one, but I have a similar software-defined radio, but not a SDR Play. Let's see what else here.
Can you hear me better right now? This is AG.
Oh, perfect. I can hear much clearer. Yeah.
Replace headphones. So yeah, I was just looking for someone. I own this SDR Uno receiver. I was looking for someone from this group who may have it, just to exchange experience with this box. It's really high-tech stuff. It really, it's just a receiver, but it's incredible how it works and what it can do. Just, yeah, exactly. That's the website. It's made by this British company.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, I don't have one, but I think they did a recent tour of their facilities, I think, as well, SDR Play. I'd have to find that, but I don't have one. Anyone on the air though?
So like my experience, and this is how I found your group, because I own this thing and step on the frequency that this club is using, and that's how I managed to get in touch. And I'm glad I found you by using this device. Yeah, wow. And yeah, I come from Europe. I have experience going back to the Cold War and a lot of stuff that I managed to do back then using special radios. And now it's, I'm looking to get a ham license, hopefully soon. We'll see.
Very cool. That's awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear.
Yeah. Just if you want to know anyone, if this is a really good device. Okay,
cool. Yeah, let me see here. Over on the TechMoan channel, I think is what it was, or Tech Minds. He did a he was speaking with Tech Minds group or the SDR Play group there, and I think he did a tour of their facility as well.
This is the owner, I believe, of that company.
Yeah. This is pretty cool. So.
I'm curious, AG, were you using it for signals intelligence, or what kind of work were you doing?
Yeah, so it's a signal intelligence. Just think their product. It's like if I compare it what I used to have 30 years ago. Yeah, it's like looking at this. It has so much high-tech stuff. It's really advanced radio, if I can put it, And it allows you to analyze different signals, decode them. I mean, you name it. It's
a fascinating field.
Yeah, but it's just receiving, on the receiving side, not transmitting, receiving only.
I know the bandwidth is pretty large in these, aren't they?
Oh yes, they go from 1 kilohertz to 2 gigahertz, like
That's
this
right.
box.
Yeah.
And it's full range. Like, right. If you have for this kind of device, you would need to have like very good wideband antenna. This is like for wideband to capture all these frequencies. So.
Very cool. Yeah, no, I have not done that too much myself.
Yeah, it looks innocent. Like this is a size of 2 cigarette boxes. And this is the older model. This is SDR Play. The new ones are called SDR Play DX or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect. Oh, this is it. You wouldn't expect that this little box will open you to so much. It's just such an innocent, but very high tech stuff. Just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Very cool. No problem. Absolutely. Yeah. Anyone else on software-defined radios, SDR Play? Anything else on that? Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Matt Webb again.
Yeah.
I will be talking a little bit about our use of SDR dongles in our receivers for tracking birds. We use both the RTL SDR USB dongle that you showed earlier, and I've used a version made by a company called Noolec, Nooelec. If you look up them, you can see their yeah, that's smart right there is one that I've used, the SMART. But we also use one called FunCube dongle. FunCube Pro Plus is the, and it's British company made. You know, they made these dongles to communicate with the FunCube on the space station itself, and so.
That's right. Oh, very cool. Yeah, it's amazing what this commodity hardware has really allowed us over the last half a decade. It's really crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, I'm not a radio person. More and more I am, but you know, learning about all of this stuff is very interesting. It's really opened up a whole world to me. Now I have a RTL SDR that I could connect to my Android phone and, you know, walk around and listen to things on it. So,
exactly.
Yeah, would have never done that in the past, but interesting.
Bring up the app here. SDR Touch, I think, is what it is. There's an app on Android, at least. You can have a full. You use an OTG cable, which is I forget what it stands for, but it's basically just a USB, micro USB to go into it, male, and then it. Let's see if they show
on the go.
On the go.
On
That's
the go.
what it is.
On the go.
That's right. And then it just breaks out to a female USB, and you can plug anything into it. Like this for specifically the RTL or SDR software or radio.
Yeah, I use a program called RF Analyzer. It's an app that you can find on Google Play there too. RF Analyzer. It just does a waterfall sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah. So everyone has a smartphone. These OTG cables on the go right there is about $3. You can get it at Micro Center. You used to be able to buy the software-defined radios at Micro Center, but I don't know if you can anymore. Definitely at Ham Radio Outlet you can, and $20-$30 radio, a USB device. Get it all plugged in together, and it's amazing what you can do. You don't even need a computer, really.
Yeah, those FunCube Pro Plus dongles are fairly pricey. They're about $130 for some reason.
Yeah.
So.
Very cool. Okay, we have about 5 to 10 minutes or so here, about 15 minutes until the actual meeting starts. Anyone else? Let me go back to the chat here. If there's anything else here. Another thing over on hackaday.com, just getting into engineering and just electronics and whatnot, and reverse engineering these little things. This person's found a $5 Bluetooth low energy sensor, environmental sensor, so temperature and all sorts of stuff, and he's been able to reverse engineer firmware and basically make it so you can use your own app and push it. Push this data to whatever you want instead of their own thing. So $5. It's a pretty little device here.
So I got something for you, Drone.
Yeah.
I'll put a link here in the chat. We're in the 911 community. We're kind of assessing whether to start using a thing called "What 3 Words." And if you want to bring up this video, I'd be really interested to see what kind of ideas folks might have as to how this might be utilized. It's a smartphone app that will reduce your location to 3 words that you can then give to an emergency communication center or others, and they can discern your coordinates from these 3 easy words. They're designed for lay people that don't understand GPS or understand, coordinates and can more easily communicate their location.
Okay, yeah, let me check that here.
You can bring that video up.
Oh, you did put it right there. Sorry. Yep.
Looks like you're muted.
I'm going to explain the way in which what three words can work, even if you're totally offline. So if you have no data or Wi-Fi and you still want to get your three-word address, you can load up the What Three Words app, click the locate button, and it's going to show you your three-word address on the screen.
Yeah,
Now the map may not
but in
load,
essence,
but that's okay.
what you can do, and this article is by the guy that's the CEO. This smart smart app will tell you these three words. Even if you're somewhere where there's no cellular data, it'll detect your location from satellites, and then you can, if you can communicate with an ECC either through a ham operator or some other method, someone that walks out, they can give these three words to an ECC. They can plug them into a site and know instantly what your location is. And it's available worldwide in multiple languages, and it's been used successfully in a lot of places. Arizona is using it in their parks and their remote locations, and people are even putting in signs that will give the three words of a location. Like if you started a trailhead or somewhere, you can write down these three words, and then if you do run into a problem, you can just give those three words, and first responders can find you. It's pretty interesting.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, I'd not heard of that before. I definitely know, yeah, I mean, knowing your location, knowing where you're at, I mean, it's very crucial to get help. And if you don't know where you're at, it'd be very difficult to get help.
Well, a lot of people just don't know how to, look up their coordinates in their phone and relay that to someone to help them, especially if they're, stressed.
Yeah, I guess maybe in the future there'll be I know that, I mean, Colorado State has an official app that you can put on your phone for like driver's license and things like that. I wonder how much sooner it would be until there's just something installed on our phone that just automatically takes care of that. I don't know. But that might be a little bit too Orwellian, though.
Well, and it does. I mean, that's the thing is if you call 911 and you can get through, then of course, phase 2 will provide pretty accurate information about your location. But if you were I was thinking today about, a lost hunter who had this on his smartphone. He could find out what his three words are and then send that in a text message if he can eventually get text service, or if he ran into somebody that had some way of communicating those words out.
Yeah, luckily I've not been in too many emergency situations, so I'm not sure on that.
So Jeff, does Jeffcom have that app in those three
Well,
words?
they're looking at it. The 911 community statewide is kind of looking at whether it's something that we want to implement. The main thing for Jeffcom is they just need to, instruct the personnel that it's something that they could receive a call about, because it's real easy. They can just, it doesn't cost them anything. They can just go on a website and decode the three words in essence.
Yeah.
But sooner or later somebody's going to call them with with three words, and they're going to need to know what to do with the three words.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So how much adoption has there been from public safety? It looks like it's UK based, so there's maybe more adoption there.
I think it just it's spotted across the world. It's being used more and more, and we had a meet session with a woman who was actually in Italy, who's one of their representatives, that was telling us all about it. So they give all the stats and everything on their website.
Yeah.
But I think it's spreading. It's growing. And it's really a pretty interesting concept.
Yeah. Okay, very neat.
And for travelers in particular that are familiar with their surroundings, it's like if they get in a wreck, or they observe a wreck or something,
Yes.
instead of having to figure out what exit they're at or blah blah blah, they can have three words and relay that. And
I guess that's a good point. I mean, I guess US GPS, is that available everywhere worldwide?
Yeah, it's ubiquitous.
Okay.
If you have a smartphone.
I'd imagine so. Yeah. Okay. But I imagine maybe like the Chinese and there's other GPS based. I wonder if those are all ubiquitous as well by this point in time, but I'd imagine. Yeah.
I think they've actually been way ahead of us.
Probably, yeah.
And we had restrictions where we could, the military had it, and
yeah.
and we could only use it to certain resolution, but I think they've been doing things,
That's right.
with personal communication for years.
One last thing I want to bring up here of a photo that somebody had just set up the station in McMurdo. So pretty neat looking station there. This was just about 5 days ago. They were on FT8. Let's see what call signs. I think they might be using that KC4 USV call sign. But just spurred a pretty interesting conversation. A lot of volunteer work. A lot of people that done work over there.
Yeah, I got some real old QSL cards from my HF and CW contacts with McMurdo years ago.
That's cool. Very neat. All right, we have just a few more minutes here. If anybody else has anything last minute you'd like to bring up or anything else, just let us know. What else?
I'm going to take a biology break and I'll be back.
Sounds good. Yeah, very briefly, Arecibo has had some very large support cables snap, 2 of them in fact, and so the begs the question of what is the future for it? Are we going to fix it, or where is that money being spent from the NSF? So pretty neat article on Hackaday on is it worth saving the Arecibo? So.
So Arecibo, this is the biggest radio telescope, right, in Puerto Rico?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh, that's massive! Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the damage done, which is pretty.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. There's definitely different. There's more arrays. There's arrays of antennas, and I don't know about the size of this compared to any others, but yeah, it's definitely very huge, and I'm not sure if there's much else like that out there. Okay, what else do we got here? Yeah, not too much more else really for the evening. I think I might close out my feed for now. Unless anyone else has anything else, we'll probably start the meeting here in 6 minutes or so. I guess just quickly, similar to this, we have LearningNet on Wednesday nights. And if I can type it all, it's on the 145-490, 448-625. Everyone is welcome to join in on that. You can certainly listen in, and also we are now on YouTube as well. So if you don't yet have your license, you can actually visit our YouTube page for live streams of our past Learning Nets. You can also check in there and see what's going on. So that's another opportunity as well. Like elementary or middle school. Okay, yeah, a couple more minutes here. Matt Webb is going to be coming up, talking about the Modus Wildlife tracking. So stay tuned for that.